Hi guys, welcome back to the Social Tune, and today it's finally time to take a look back on the past 6 months and determine the top 15 best albums of 2017 so far. You know, even more than doing my year-end list, I really do love the mid-year one. It gives people a general idea of what I've been listening to and gives them a sneak peek as to what could make my list of the best albums and the best songs of the year once December rolls around. And this year, more than most, there was a lot of competition. I've been told since I started doing these album reviews that I'm frequently too generous and that the rest of the time I'm just wrong. But I don't care. This is the music that I enjoy, not the stuff that you're listening to necessarily. And if you do have an opinion that differs from mine, please feel free to post your list down in the comments. I'd be more than happy to discuss it with you. Also, if there are any albums that are missing from this list, I either didn't review them or I didn't like them as much as you did. If you've gone through all of my reviews and you think that some albums are missing, please post them in the comments and I will try to listen to them before the end of the year. Finally, before we proceed, it's important to note that all of the albums and songs on this list come from albums that I reviewed this year that came out after November 30th, 2016, which means all of them are eligible. And so, with all of that out of the way, let's start this off with 25 songs from albums that didn't actually make this list, but which all have a chance of making my top 50 songs of the end of the year. So let's start with...
Get out of my bully. Don't stay around, don't play straight bully. Won't fuck around, won't play cake bully. Get above my blood. It's last but nothing. I love drugs. I pray for everything we lost, but back to secrets. Your head forever's all I want. Don't take the money.
Uncle Uzi taught me, you can't teach what you don't know. You can't lead where you don't go. You can't reap what you don't sow. Can't fool the people no more.
When I came in, I hung it on the rack. I will have a hat when I go out. I'm a peaceful loving man, I am, and I don't want to shout.
Man, you really brought me back down. Hold on to hope if you got it. Don't let it go for nobody.
I was trying to do what's best, but damn if it don't feel wrong. And I shot the stars out of your sky, took the love right from your eyes.
Looking into the face of the good snow cone.
We go falling off the wagon, got ourselves a real bad habit. Girl, you got me acting like an addict, all messed up no matter what. All that time that I wasted, refusing to let you go. From every place I've been to the state I'm in, I needed to let you know something you should see. thinking. First meal, 20 years old, had a couple of babies, had a couple of shooters, caught a murder case. Fingerprints on the gun, they assuming, but witnesses couldn't prove it. That was back when he turned his back and they killed his cousin. I'm okay, but I swear they smell the blood on me. I hear them coming for me.
And I wonder if you know, oh, this town still talks.
Send you off to die for us. Forget about you when you don't. I need nothing more than my problems. Just let me know when you found them. Dear Theodosia, what to say to you? You have my eyes. You have your mother's name. No sympathy for foes, my enemies exposed, but they remember me when I'm gone. I say rockabye, 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 baby. Shatta boy, shatta go crazy.
And now, with those out of the way, let's dive into number 15, which probably surprised me a lot more than it'll surprise any of you.
Get money, big bands, simple bands, big money. Big bands, simple bands, get money. Big bands, simple bands, big money. Big bands, simple bands.
I struggled quite a bit to pick the first rap album that would appear on this list. And ultimately, while POS, Kendrick Lamar, Brother Ali, and Joey Badass all released really solid efforts that fit very comfortably within their discographies, these guys are yet to be established, and as a best foot forward, it's damn impressive. You never know what you're going to get from song to song, which has led some music outlets to call this a scattershot mess. But really, it's just incredibly experimental from a group of people who really do love and care about their craft. In terms of indie rap, this is about as blatant an example as you can get. And really, who's to say that's a bad thing? Excellent project, do not let this one pass you by. I'm kind of surprised this stuck with me as much as it did, because in some ways, it's kind of ridiculous. It's over the top, it's theatrical, it's whiny. But what counterbalances all of that is that it's also really self-aware. The arc that the characters go through on this album is really quite progressive, especially for our protagonist when he finally decides to stop moping. I will say though, considering so many of these songs are just about him whining, it's incredible just how great the hooks are on this album. Seriously, way to channel your creativity and make your misery sound entertaining, guys. It's an awesome slice of punk rock revival that may not really fit into the Creeper saga, and yet simultaneously acts as a phenomenal debut album that you all need to check out.
I'm not the only one to notice that. I'm cutting all my ties. I think it's time to stop holding back.
Out of all of the artists that I checked out for the first time this year, this one has been my favorite. Odyssey may not have the compelling backstory of a Brother Ali or the incredible ambition of a Kendrick Lamar, but what he does have is an incredible flow that fits over pretty much everything, great production, all of which he handled and mixed himself, and some of his most political content to date. But unlike many other rappers who tried this year to mixed results, Odyssey doesn't call out anyone specific or even get all that explicit, instead stating universal truths that many of us would prefer to ignore. Hell, the worst track on this album is still awesome, diving into depression within the black community. And if that's Odyssey at his worst, you'd better believe that his best is amazing. This guy has been overlooked by too many for too long. Fix that. And here we have my long overdue recognition of Lorde's incredible talent manifested in the form of her best project to date. I feel there are certain mainstream artists that we as a public hold to a higher regard, and while Adele may still be the queen of that, Lorde absolutely stole the show this year with this album. A deeply personal and intelligent project that dives into a breakup, the first real breakup that Lorde has ever experienced. And considering this is her first rodeo, she sure is channeling it well, as this album takes the fuck my ex pop cliches that Taylor Swift is so fond of, and both embraces and subverts them, dissecting her lingering feelings and issues, while creating some absolutely damn potent pop music along the way. Great job, Lorde. This is something special.
You can't stand that he loves me, and I couldn't care less. I know what you call me. That word fits me to a T.
There was some really damn great country music released in 2016, so naturally I assumed that 2017 would slow down the momentum slightly. But nope, instead we got this, the best example of Texas country that this year had to offer. Okay, bar one, but we'll get to it. In the meantime, we have the gorgeous voice of Sunny Sweeney leading us through some absolutely excellent songs. From the cover of Jerry Jeff's Walker, I Feel Like Hank Williams Tonight, to the smouldering elegance of Nothing Wrong with Texas, to the multiple tracks co-written by Lori McKenna, who, if you remember, was responsible for, among others, my favourite song of last year overall. This album is by far one of the most underrated projects of the year, and in a just world, Sunny Sweeney would have been the one to break through to the mainstream instead of Taylor Swift, because trust me, we'd all be better for it. But don't just take my word for it, check it out for yourself. It's gorgeous.
I can't complain, I get to visit every year. Last night my driver said my knees brought him to tears. I love Portugal, I love Portugal, oh, I love Portugal.
Mark Kozelek of Sun Kil Moon is an asshole. In many ways, he's the indie equivalent of Kanye West, constantly picking fights with his fellow musicians and insulting them. And yet, just like Kanye, he can make some absolutely stellar music. And unlike Kanye, Mark Kozelek always seems to know exactly what he's doing. He's a smart guy. Out of all the albums on this list, this is the one that I struggled with the most as to whether or not it should even be here. And yet every time, I'd go back and listen to it and all my fears would instantly be washed away. This album may be over 2 hours long, which is easily the biggest issue with it, but the style, the stories, the charisma, and the hypnotic melodies are undeniable. For everyone who goes on about music you can just vibe out to, this is one of the best examples that I've ever come across. It's basically one long stream of consciousness over some beautiful looping instrumentals that feels both on the fly and yet simultaneously intricately planned out. By far one of the most challenging listens on this list, but still hugely rewarding all the same. This may be lower than a lot of you expected. Honestly, it does run a little long, and after the first two chronicles, the album can't help but slow down. It does peak a little early. But with that said, it's still an Arion project. The epic scope is still here, not to mention our fantastic group of singers, as Ariane Lucassen brings together a ton of acclaimed and beloved acts from within metal, from Blind Guardian to Nightwish to Within Temptation to Epica. As a prequel, it may not quite match 010110001, but as a standalone project, it packs a hell of a punch, with countless incredible instrumental moments and a story that spans galaxies. It may not be Ariane's best project, but that should speak volumes as to just how incredible he is. Because it's still a fantastic album, definitely my pick for the best metal album of the year so far. So definitely check it out.
Don't lose your
This is by far one of the most fun albums I've heard in years. Neil Cicierega actually made one of my favorite albums of last year under his pseudonym Lemon Demon called Spirit Phone. And while that was also a wildly fun slice of pop music, this is a compilation of many slices of fun pop music, as this mashup album combines hits from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s to create all new songs that sound incredibly cohesive, with many of them actually managing to surpass the songs that they're made up of. On top of that, the humor on this album is just hilarious, sometimes subtle, sometimes blatant as hell. Like remixing Eye of the Tiger to be about actual tigers, YMCA to be sad and grandiose, and Bustin' to be a song about having sex with a ghost. Easily one of the most fun, zany projects in Neil Cicierega's discography, and in my opinion, his best. Great work.
Honey, I'm an astronaut. I can't give you what you want, but I'll try to be there when you call.
In a country scene that is kind of starting to feel a little too safe, Jamie Wyatt delivered a strong right hook with this album. Despite only being 7 tracks long, it takes every advantage it can, with strong hooks, beautiful melodies, and Jamie Wyatt's powerful voice carrying us through a smorgasbord of themes. From Bonnie and Clyde-esque anthems to love songs that transcend time and space. And either way, Jamie sells it effortlessly. Hell, even the Merle Haggard cover on this album is arguably better than the original. That's the kind of quality we're talking about here. If this project were a couple of tracks longer, it would have made my top 5 without question. But as it is, it's still an absolutely incredible record that will not get enough credit, but definitely deserves to.
Love will never break the shape we take. Baby, let all them voices slip away.
It may have taken multiple listens, but it was well worth it. Easily Mike Hadrius's most eclectic and opulent album to date, it's also easily his most vulnerable, as he delivers some of the most gorgeous Baroque pop music that you could ever hope for. All while exploring themes of existentialism, fear, human emotions, and cravings of the flesh, and at the heart of it all, love for both his art and his boyfriend. While I may have been a huge fan of Too Bright, this album left me speechless by going in an entirely different direction, while still sounding absolutely huge, with strings, drums, bass, and gleaming keys building up to massive payoffs, with Mike's incredible voice riding on top of it all, touched with distortion, and yet still incredibly raw and bare. This album is an experience, and I for one cannot wait to go back for more. Awesome project.
Watch and repeat. They all say I will become a replica.
This was certainly an unexpected surprise for me. While not being quite as excellent as Jamie's solo album In Colour from a few years ago, this is still easily my favourite project from the UK trio The XX so far. Jamie's production is incredible, of course, but props must be given to our two singers who both do a fantastic job, as they both manage to convey the mixed emotions that this album invokes, telling the story of introverts trying to interact with the rest of the world. As someone who can definitely relate to that, this was bound to make my list from the very beginning. And it doesn't hurt that pretty much every single song here is great. Even On Hold, the only one that I wasn't sure about at first, really has grown on me with each consecutive listen, which is why it's more than earned its spot on this list. Great job, guys.
Got a second chance, I'm gonna make it count. Make my way out west, maybe head down south. Live a life of a pardoned man, believing in things I don't understand.
Look, I knew that this album was going to be great going into it. What I didn't expect was that it would get to me quite as much as it did. Compared to Jason Eady's last project, Daylight and Dark, this one sees him older, wiser, and with more regrets. And on this album, he confronts those issues. I won't really say that there's an arc to this album, but by the end, there is peace found in a strange sort of way. Peace as he accepts the fact that he's made mistakes and that he's bound to make more. But as long as he learns something from it and remembers the good times along with the bad, he'll be alright in the end. Paired with some incredible storytelling, Jason Eady's wonderful, warm singing voice, and some gorgeous, melodic Texas country music, this is bound to be remembered among his discography as one of his best, as well as one of the best of 2017 overall.
Naturally the dying man wonders to himself, his commentary been more lucid than anybody else.
This is a surprise. Until very recently, I was absolutely convinced that this would be my second favorite album of the year overall. Because everything that I said about this album in my review still stands. This album may alienate a lot of Josh Tillman's bandwagon fans, hell, he even says so on this project, but for me, it just cemented my high opinion of him even further, as the album dives into politics, day-to-day life, existentialism, and many more things along the way. Plus, it's backed up by some incredibly lush and gorgeous instrumentation, Josh Tillman's honeyed vocals spouting filth and vitriol, and some of Father John Misty's best songs to date. I can kind of see why many have turned on this album and called it a scattershot mess, but personally, I heartily disagree. Incredible album, great job Josh Tillman, you did it again. But considering all of that, who could have possibly knocked him down a slot? Well, who else?
I'm a white man living in a white man's world. Under our roof is a baby girl.
I seriously considered giving this album a 10 out of 10. First off, you have the 400 unit, who can deliver both on the country rock songs and the acoustic pedal steel touch tracks. Then you have Jason Isbell, whose incredible voice conveys more emotion here than on pretty much any of his other albums so far. And then you have the songwriting with the breathtaking moments that blow you away, its striking imagery, its ballsy as hell content, and of course, constantly tugging at your heartstrings. But more than any of those individual things, this is one of the most important country albums released over the past few years. It takes politics from a very unique perspective, the southern white man who's simultaneously populist and sympathetic, who doesn't give anyone a free pass, but who also empathizes with everyone, highlighting the problems that each side has and then pointing out that we're all suffering and that the differences between us are trivial at best. It's tough to say whether or not this is my favorite project from him so far, but it's a strong contender, time will tell. If you still haven't checked out this guy after the many times I've praised him on this channel, please fix that. You are missing out. Fantastic job again, Jason Isbell. You're my hero. And yet, what beat out this project? What could beat out a near perfect album? Why, an actually perfect album, of course.
Hear what I say, we are the business today. Fuck shit is finished today. RT&J, we the new PB&J. We dropped the classic today. We did a tablet of acid today. Lit joints with the matches and ashes away. We dash away. Donna and Dixon, the pistol is blasting away.
A while ago, I made the mistake of tweeting out that Creeper's Eternity in Your Arms was my most listened to project of 2017 so far. Yeah, that was a mistake. There's not even a contest. Because not a day has gone by since Killer Mike and LP dropped this masterpiece that I haven't listened to it in some way, shape, or form, and I have never got sick of it. Run the Jewels 3 isn't just a perfect album, it's an album that made me reconsider my perfect score initially given to Run the Jewels 2. The incredibly strong hooks, the hilarious punchlines, the strident populism, and the cutting commentary, all of these are incredible and gut-wrenching. Compared to all the other political albums released this year that invoked either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton's names, these guys never do, and it hits all the harder for it. The features are all on their game, the humor is fantastic, and the quotable lines go on for days. And of course, I'd be remiss not to mention LP's fantastic production, which is at its most insane and off-the-wall to date. Their last album was a game changer, one that launched them into the public consciousness in a big way. This one cemented that place indefinitely, and while many rappers are aiming for the top of the game, right now, as far as I'm concerned, it belongs to these two. So to the rest of you rappers out there, do your worst. I would love to see you try and top this. Instant classic. Congratulations, gentlemen, for making my favorite album of the year so far. And that's that. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. 2017 has been incredible so far, and I'm hoping for more quality in the upcoming months. However, once again, if there are any albums that have already come out that weren't on this list and that you guys really enjoy, please post them in the comments and I will try and check them out before the end of the year. There's still hope. Otherwise, leave a like, please subscribe so you don't miss a thing, and until the next time, I'm Finn, and this is The Social Tunes, signing off.